All right, today we're diving into a concept that could completely flip our idea of digital privacy on its head. It's called perceptual middleware. And the big idea here isn't about hiding from AI, it's about becoming a moving target.
And this right here, this is the core of the whole thing. It just completely challenges the basic assumption that our identity has to be this fixed, stable thing that machines can easily read. But what if it didn't?
So let's just ask it straight up. Imagine if, to some surveillance camera, your face wasn't this consistent, reliable piece of data. What if it was just a flickering, low-confidence signal that was way too much of a hassle to even bother tracking? Well, that's the world we're going to explore.
Now, to really get the solution, we have to understand the problem first. The entire foundation of AI surveillance today, all of it, rests on one simple fact. Our bodies are treated like these stable, predictable, and perfectly readable barcodes.
Think about it. Facial recognition, the way you walk, re-identifying you in a crowd, all of it depends on the assumption that you are the exact same collection of data points from one moment to the next. That stability, that's what they feed on. It's their biggest advantage, and frankly, it's our biggest weakness. The only way forward is to break that stability.
And that brings us to a really fundamental shift in strategy. So instead of trying to build, bigger digital walls or some kind of invisibility cloak, this concept says we should create a totally new kind of interface, one that sits between us and the machines that are watching us.
And you can see just how big a change in mindset this really is. The old school way of thinking about privacy was totally defensive. Just hide me. It was this all-or-nothing game. But this new way? It's proactive. It's about degrading the signal, introducing just enough uncertainty to make the whole surveillance system impractical.
So here it is, the big idea, perceptual middleware. Now, this isn't camouflage. To other people, you look completely normal. But to an AI, you're a mess. You're a collection of jittering landmarks and inconsistent data. You become a moving target, not by running away, but by subtly scrambling how a machine perceives you.
Okay, that all sounds pretty cool in theory, but how does it actually work? Well, it breaks down into a wearable toolkit with three main parts all working together: your glasses, your clothing, and augmented reality. First up, the glasses. And this is genius, because they sit right on your face, AI's #1 target. Tiny, super low-intensity LEDs project these subtle light patterns that, to a person, just look like normal reflections. But to an AI, key facial landmarks are constantly jittering. The whole point is to break what's called temporal consistency, basically to make the AI doubt that the face it sees right now is the same one it saw a second ago.
All right, next up, the scrambling extends to your clothes. And this works in a couple of ways. First, there's the passive approach, just clever design, like seams that aren't symmetrical or textures that don't repeat, which really messes with gait analysis. But then there's the next level stuff, active scrambling. Think flexible LED threads that create this slow, subtle drift of light and shadow, making it almost impossible for an AI to reliably track your body over a distance.
So, what's the brain of this whole operation? Well, that's where augmented reality comes in. But not for you to see things. In this case, the AR glasses act as the system's controller. They use their sensors to figure out your context. Are you in a quiet cafe? Okay, the system stays pretty minimal. But are you walking through a heavily surveilled city square or maybe heading to a protest? It checks your privacy rules and immediately ramps up the scrambling on your glasses and clothes. It's basically a personal policy engine for how you're perceived.
Okay, so we've got the toolkit. But why is this approach so much more resilient than things we've seen before? Well, it all comes down to the secret sauce, a concept called plausible ambiguity.
You've probably seen those older attempts, right? The t-shirts with the crazy patterns designed to confuse object detectors. The problem is, those patterns are static. They're like a fixed password. Eventually, the AI models just learn to see right past them. Adaptive scrambling, though, is dynamic. It randomizes its tactics, it can react to the specific cameras it detects nearby, it's constantly changing. It's the difference between a brick wall and an active cybersecurity defense system.
And this is the real genius of it. You see, the goal isn't to create obvious glitches. AI is actually fantastic at filtering out random noise. The real goal is to introduce things that are plausible, but just inconsistent. Highlights that look like lighting changes, lens effects that look like normal glare. The AI can't just ignore it because it looks like real data, but it can't get a confident lock on you either. It gets stuck in this permanent state of ambiguity.
So where does this all lead? What does this mean for the future? Because this is about so much more than just a cool piece of tech. It represents a way of reclaiming something really fundamental that we've kind of lost in the digital age. Okay, let's be super clear about this. This kind of technology is not going to make you invisible. It won't stop a dedicated agent from identifying you if you're being specifically targeted. But that's not the point. The point is to break mass, automated, large-scale data harvesting. It's about raising the cost and the complexity of public profiling so high that it just becomes impractical on a societal scale. And you know what? That is a huge win.
And this takes us right back to where we started, challenging this idea that our bodies have to be fixed data points for machines. You know, in the analog world, we always had a certain amount of ambiguity. You could get lost in a crowd. That was just a default feature of being human. This technology is all about trying to restore that natural state of being. It argues that our identity should be contextual, and that we should have control over how we're seen.
So what does this journey look like? You can kind of picture it, right? It probably starts with some niche wearables, but that could quickly turn into privacy fashion as a real design category. Maybe further down the line, we all have personal perception profiles. They're like firewall rules, but for our bodies. And then, maybe one day, having this scrambling tech turned on is just seen as the polite, normal thing to do, a way of signaling to the automated world around us.
Which brings us to our final question, and it's the one that sits right at the heart of this entire concept. In a world that's getting more and more automated, should machines be entitled to a perfect, clean, high-confidence read of your identity, just for free and without your consent? This technology suggests the answer is no, and it gives us a toolkit to start taking some of that control back.